Roger, how you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
Well.
Okay. It is new.
Roger, I'll tell you.
What do you think?
Doesn't really matter. I just,
How often I
it's just one of those, like, I know him somewhere.
I have no problem with that. I agree with it, serious. As you should.
Looking to save money when I can.
Sure.
Time, is it?
Technically, there's still a minute left on my phone at least. You're ready to get started, aren't you?
Yeah. Love to.
Are you ready to get done? Is that what you're trying to say?
Was in a conference call late last night.
There you go.
You want to eat your dinner earlier tonight than last night?
It'd be nice, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Well, it looks like it is now 5 o'clock, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Really quickly before we do the reading of the minutes, a quick change to the agenda. We'll be moving F before E. So we will move that before adjournment, and then anyone that wants to stick around can, but after we come back from executive session, we are just going to adjourn. So you are welcome to leave if you would like. Okay, so let's move on and take a look at the minutes, please. Everyone got a chance to look at them? Okay, do I have any motions?
I move that accepted.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll say.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that will pass. All right, first up is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding airport financials. Adam?
Yes, ma'am. Before you, in your packet, you've got a profit and loss budget to actual. This is for October, November. Last board meeting, if you remember, we did FY19 all the way through FY23, so it'd be September. So now these are the next financials to present before you. Going through this, I'll just run down the highlights here of the profit and loss statement. We also have Joseph Lynn from Warehouse to be able to filter any questions. Ordinary income, this is basically what's in front of you is our operations. This is not anything to do with appropriations or any grants or anything like that. This is just our operations. Ordinary income, $375,964. Cost of goods sold, $237,285, which is leaving a gross profit of $138,000 roughly. Going down some of our expenses, airport maintenance during the 2 months. At the end of the year is when we do a lot of our maintenance on our vehicles. And we have obviously other things that we're taking care of. We've had some pipe bust. We've had a few other things that we've taken care of as well. We've purchased equipment, our office supplies. We've purchased stock and quite a few things there. Shipping code 544. I want to make note that we have not spent an astronomical amount, $2,400, on postage stamps. This is actually trucking costs associated with our cargo operations here at the airport. Joseph and I have spoken about this. What we usually do is we get invoiced by dispatching trucking for those partners that want us to do that. And then we pass that cost and then our time on to the airline that's here. And so there's always a profit side that will cancel this out. Insurance, we've prepaid insurance that you can see there, $17,000 And payroll expense, 63,000, we're right in line with what our budget is. I think there's only a $26 difference there. Our total expense is $152,691, and our net ordinary income is negative $14,012.91. Same for any questions on that.
Where did the car fit in?
That would be on the balance sheet, so it'd be the next document.
Okay.
Agree with that, it's fixed assets.
No questions?
Balance sheet, Joseph, is there anything that you want to point out here, besides, our bottom line here, total liabilities and equity is $10,718,667.
The only thing I would point out is you see the net income, which is the net income for the year to date being October and November. It shows 59,000 on the balance sheet. That's because, as Adam stated, the P&L is the operations only. You guys also received $70,000 in the month of October from the city and county appropriations that came in October. So therefore, the entity had a net profit through those 2 months, including the appropriations.
Any questions on this?
Can I ask a generic question about the accounting? In my own home, in my own business, my own house, I keep different accounts for different things. And should we not be doing that? I mean, the FBO is different than the airport. Is that not something we should be doing? It would make something like that really simple. Look at it.
Well, and correct, like we said, the appropriations, you could have those in a separate account. Now, and there again, on this P&L, we tried to don't have those included so you can see just the operations of the entity.
Sure.
But yeah, you could have the appropriations in a separate, its own checking account.
Wouldn't you want to?
I mean, it really just depends, the appropriations technically are encumbered through the contract that we have to assign.
Sure.
But we have 4 accounts, and we have another account with another bank that we've maintained. But our accounts are essentially a money market in which we keep a lot of our extra funds, which we're making a pretty good percentage there.
Right.
We have our airport expense account, which is where we do all of our check signing. We have our fuel account, which is a lot of our card transactions and other things come in. And also hangar rent that's done by card. And then we have our airport airport manager expense account, which is where we have a debit card tied to. We have an account with another financial institution that we get, there's 2 or 3 folks that pay into that account, which we draw from, which is the state of Alabama, which they pass through the FAA grants. And then we have 1 or 2 tenants that still pay there that we've got to clean up. But yeah, those are the accounts. What we do.
So we're basically doing what on?
Yeah, if you had a checking account specifically, as you're saying, for the grants, one to run through, so that way you're able to audit those grants a lot easier.
Right.
And that checking account only be maintained for grant revenue, grant funds and grant expenditures.
Sure.
And
Well, that's what I do at home because it's cheaper at the end of the year running my taxes. Anyway, I didn't know whether that was a way of saving some accounting money.
It'd be cleaner accounting, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I will mention on the grants, we don't, when we receive grant money, it is a pass-through, just like the state's a pass-through for the FAA. So when we receive that, we're automatically writing a check at the same time.
Right.
So once it hits the account, Yeah, it doesn't really sit. Now, we play that game through our airport expense account, and our money marketing account is where, let's say that we have something that we're going to do airport maintenance related. So a lot of our appropriations is essentially dedicated to airport maintenance. And so what we do is we put that in the money marketing account until the hangar gets painted, or, you know, the seal coat happens on the top, or sheet metal's replaced. Yeah, we park it until that time comes. Because what happens with our appropriations is we only have 4 entities. We have entity A and B that sends it immediately, but then we have entity C and D that essentially you'll get it later, lump sum, or you get it quarterly. So it's kind of one of those things that some of those happen towards the end of the year or middle of the year. And yeah, so that's kind of how that money market is applied.
Thank you.
No other questions. I'd like to ask the board for approval to accept the financials.
All right, do we have an motion to approve the financials?
Make the motion to accept the financials as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I would ask if you have any opposed.
All right, looking at the discussion and consideration and possible action regarding equipment purchase. Okay.
Yes, so back in September, I believe it was, August, September board meeting, when we accepted the financials, we talked about out of budget purchases. One of those purchases was for an AC/DC GPU with a not to exceed limit of, I believe it was $38,000. In 2022, there were plenty of these GPUs on the market. Today, they are non-existent. And the ones that do come on the market, they're past their lifespan, if you will. Tonight, I'm asking for an amendment to the already approved out of budget expense to include just a DC GPU. The reason being is I looked and called and talked to the airlines that fly in, and I think that in the future this is a priority, but you know, the operations that we've seen in 2023, we've had 18 total operations of the aircraft that could use AC, DC GPUs. The expense of the ones that are available, there are a few used ones. They're knocking on the door of a 6-figure purchase, so between $90,000 and $100,000. There are some that we can buy brand new. They're more like $150,000 to $175,000. I think that this is something that in the future, when we get aircraft based here, talking to some of these folks, most of the time, you know, they say that they don't expect, this is their words, they don't expect us to have an AC/DC GPU, so they just use their APU. But if they were based here doing certain types of operations, flight planning and other things, you know, most of these are all cargo operators. So they're kind of a little bit on the, they're used to going into places that are different than, you know, larger hub and non-hub type airports. On the gas and diesel DC GPUs, I found one 3 weeks ago, just an example. There's several of these, but Hobart's a great brand that we've got a company out of Smyrna, Georgia, that Mark C. Pope that we can call to get maintenance done to it. It's a very wide known brand for FBO GPUs. The cost for this used one was $25,000. And so it's a cost savings from when we originally talked. Now that one could be sold by now. That was 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. I'll stand for any questions.
Don't we have a pigtail here to plug up that we can use, just get our aircraft close enough to do?
That is absolutely true. We have a box cart is what we have, and it's over by the fuel barn. The problem that we run into there is the cord is a liability of people taxiing over it. The lead, we've got, let's just say 100 feet that come across there. We always call it, but there's always the liability of having somebody go over that. And mess up.
Can you pull the aircraft over there to it where nobody's going to taxi over? Just relocate the aircraft?
We could, we don't have all the attachments for every single airplane, but we have an electrode that can move just about every aircraft. It's just time consuming to do those things. And sometimes what we get is we get so many aircraft here and where we position them, they have a way to get out, kind of a round robin. But when we start moving those things, it gets pretty dicey on the ramp sometimes. Our ramp is not big enough for what we have.
So Roger, I'm sorry,
I was just gonna say, I've got a battery powered GPU. It's extremely rare to use. You know, only time we ever use it, Romeo Lemak was doing some kind of avionics updating. It's gonna be powered up for an hour or two and hook it up. But you know, most all these aircraft, as you know very well, they got their own GPU. But what about the one I got? I mean, if y'all needed it in Mercy, you just grab it, sit there and hang. Could use it for free instead of the airport buying one. It's gonna be a rare occasion. I think you haven't had occasion to need it, right? So far.
We use GPUs. We're out in 50-mile-an-hour winds last night using GPU on PC-12. We use them often. You know, we've got tenants on the south side of the airport that need GPUs now, as well as lab service and other things. And so, you know, looking at that, we need a mobile that can do not just starts, but what they do during the summer is they hook these GPUs up and they cool off their airplane for their clientele. So all the charters, they don't want to use that battery or the cycles on the battery because it get expensive. They want GPU. So if 3 net jets pop up, we don't have the necessary equipment to satisfy.
they can't run an air conditioner off of the DC, I don't think, right? They don't have it.
Phenoms,
Phenoms do?
yeah.
Problem I had was 25,000 for a DC. I'd be more along the lines of put a little bit more money in it, get an AC if you could, because you can't make AC out of DC. And when you need an AC when you need an AC generator, you need an AC generator.
Absolutely. I will say that one of the things that some of these aircraft, again, 18 operations in 2023, which is great, by the way, because historically, these are DC-9s, these are MD-83s, 73s, those kind of aircraft. That's great. I've run into it where, in the case of those airplanes landing, the thing that is more valuable to me than the AC/DC GPU is actually stairs.
Yeah.
Because I get the old retired airline pilot that's 70 years old trying to climb out of a straight ladder that's 10 feet tall next to the airplane.
Sure.
And so those folks have not asked to date. I've not had one to ask for that. Now, when certain folks that are interested in building here, they may need something in the future, but right now I have not. So it's up to you all to put more money with it or take a cheaper route. And, you know, we got a not to exceed 48. I think I can get one that's relatively cheaper than that for just DC.
What's your service fee on the GPU?
It is $100 for constant power and it's $75 for just a jump start. It's one of those services that's like the lav. It's not that it's a money maker. It's just one of those services that if you don't have it, they look at Huntsville International. They look at some of these other places with a you know a little bit stronger eye, if you will.
Well, my point, I'd go back to, we gotta relocate the aircraft in those cases, or let them use their APUs. You know,
The ones that we'd be buying is mobile and go anywhere on the airport. It would be a diesel powered. And so it doesn't matter about a hookup. That's the good thing about those. It's usually pulled with a tug, pulled over with a UTV or some sort, and render their services that way.
Well, the thing about the AC, it's not really worth buying the AC right now because if they don't have an APU, it isn't going to be just the AC generator you need. You're going to need to start a car too.
Yeah, an air start.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to need to start a car in an AC. They're different with bigger ones. They start with air, not with electricity. So I just, $25,000 for something that you can only use for, you know, a handful of airplanes when they do have their own APU. Seems like a lot of money when we bought an expensive tug that you can hook everything up to, that's an electric tug. And we can pull them over here to the corner if they really want to run their AC. I'd say, let them pay you to move them over the corner. But I mean, we got a loan now, we got a service too, so $25,000 to me is a lot of money for something that doesn't quite do it all.
The whole purpose is for us to provide services at the airport. We've already approved 48,000, which was already in our financials
For an AC.
for an AC/DC. I remember the conversation, it was supposed to be dual. So if we can't find one now, and I think we should honor the airport director's request and go down to 25,000 and let him continue moving our services forward. We've already had an FBO here that tried the extension cord thing and it didn't work out great for them. So let's not repeat the same things. And if you guys have been seeing some of the pictures that have come out of this place, there's no way you're gonna play dominoes trying to get airplanes over here for a plug-in. And if we think we're just gonna get in a longer extension cord, just wait till OSHA shows up out here and finds out we're overvolting a circuit or something like that. That $25,000 fee is gonna be a short.
Well, that extension cords are pretty for that star card, and I'm not trying to argue, but the point of order, the resolution was for an AC/DC, not a DC. So I think you just do a different resolution and pass it.
That's what I mean, there was a lot of conversation about, and I don't disagree about trying to find an AC one, but if we can't find one and we still need to try to attract more clients, and are they asking if you have a GPU available?
Absolutely. There's most of the business traffic that we see, you know, that this is the, most of the citations, PC-12s, they are all, those kind of class of business aircraft are asking for, and all the metros that we see, they don't like to start from a cargo standpoint. So that's a turboprop that asks.
So they don't have a ground power unit, they don't have a GPU.
And I can tell you, I've never seen a wheels up running their APU when they're getting ready to leave. They're on the ground running the GPU.
Yeah, I think there's a significant portion of our business operations that are asking for it. And there have been numerous times where we're in a pinch where we're hustling carts and leads around to satisfy. You know, we got this one that finally started up, we can unplug, and then we're going to the next one. And having two is kind of the same thing that I talked about, I think it was the beginning of this year, about the 2 jet trucks. If something goes down, then we got a major issue. Now we don't have a service to provide. And we've had that happen recently as well with one of our, the GPU that we've got. The board was bad in it, and I had to overnight the board. It would only get up to 24 volts, it wouldn't do 28. And so the board was bad, and we've got it replaced, got it fixed, and it's serviceable today. But it's just one of those things that are trying to better our services.
Yeah, it looks like to me we're opening ourselves up to a lot of liability if we're going to start moving airplanes around in the tight space that we have, as opposed to being able to service them in place, spaced out like you normally do.
I will say the guys that fly the Phenom 100 are the worst about don't tug my airplane. You know, and the Phenom 300 as well, because you got to go and disconnect and do all the things. But those folks, they want to park where they park. So to that tune, I mean, yes.
So what,
and there's also a client that doesn't want you to move their aircraft at all. So
one oops could cost more than what you're asking for.
Other than powering the fueling panel, what else do you use the AC for?
I mean, it's just all avionics.
And the big airplanes, it's the airplane systems,
Yeah,
all AC.
it's
The
the all-
avionics are all, the old avionics are all AC, the bigger airplanes, fuel pumps are AC, stuff like that. But they don't start the airplane with AC, they start with air. So, you know, until you can make that big jump and get a start car two, then you can't really service the airplane with no APU. The APU generator's out, then you can entertain them. But I would rather save our money and get an AC. If you can, then spend half of what an AC is to just get a DC.
Adam, can you clarify how much were you finding the duals for?
The cheapest I found was on the market for, I believe, just a day or so. I think it was about 79,000 used. And that was I believe that was an ITW brand. And so, yeah, it was on by the time I called, it was already quote unquote under contract.
Snapped up.
Which my approach was to beg for a lower price. And they said, well, as soon as we get them, they're gone. That's the I guess the nightmare of operating in the used market. They already have buyers as soon as they get something.
So our options are to either approve him for more money to buy something else used that comes up potentially, or wait, or approve a DC only. Do I have any motions? All right, with no motions, we will move forward.
I will start looking.
Looking at discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding rules and regulation updates. Adam, I know that you had some discussion on this.
Yes, in your packet, you've got the one pager there of just the actual changes that's in red. It's Rule 8-13, it's improvements and additions. It states tenants or their guests cannot make improvements or modifications to airport-owned property / infrastructure without first receiving written permission from the airport director. We've had several things that I have noticed. It could have been taken place 5 years, 10 years ago. You know, modifying the hangar wall so that you can make a urinal in it is not acceptable. Just to kind of give you an example, making certain improvements to asphalt, putting stakes in or other things like that. There's just things that have popped up recently, and I was looking through our lease contracts as well as our rules and regulations, and there's nothing that is cut and dry. It's more or less an implied. So I'm proposing those rule change, or that rule change. I'll stand for any questions.
I make a motion to accept the rules as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that has passed. All right, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding land acquisition.
In your packet, you'll see basically a purchase agreement for $85,000, $50,000 per acre to the Shaw Land Trust Company, LLC. This is for the property for the sewer infrastructure project, as well as the access road for the southeast development. Behind the purchase agreement, you will see a rendering to show you the 1.7 acres that we're talking about. That's given by Morrell Engineering. And then the very last document that is in this side of the packet is the invoice sent to Limestone County Commission for the funds out of our sewer project. This is one of these things that I talked about, I think, previous meeting, or maybe the last two meetings. We're looking at the property that we don't own to have access to for acquisition integration, essentially, and other future developments on the southeast side of the airport. We're looking at the bare minimum to be able to build the access road large enough for tractor trailers, and then also every infrastructure that we need to bring in as far as utilities. So the sewer is one of those that I've mentioned. They started at a very high amount, and we've settled on 50,000. 4 years ago, I believe it was, right before I came in. So I believe it was 3 years ago, right before I got here. You all did a land appraisal of 55 acres on the east side of the airport. I believe they used that document for the reference for the price. It came out to be $48,700. I believe is what the price per acre for that property was. I believe 50,000 is reasonable. This will be reimbursed essentially simultaneously through our sewer project. GMC, when we first met with Director Boswell with ADECA to secure the funding for the sewer project, which is estimated at the very beginning, $2,477,000. He asked all 4 entities in the room if they would partner on the soft costs, the oversight and engineering costs, which was $477,000. By the time you all approved and executed the contract, several months later, the contract was $392,000 and some change of GMC to do the project. We have come under the 477. Each entity dedicated $119,000 for the project. We went back and spoke to these entities. I spoke to one personally myself. Limestone County engineers and chairman have been discussing and utilizing the extra funds to purchase this, as it is part of that project. I'll stand for any questions.
So we'll write it out of our account and then we'll get reimbursed when the sewer project.
Yeah, essentially.
And we're under budget, so we gotta cover by that allotment of money.
Yes.
Separate to it, right?
Simply put,
I guess we gotta do it. We're obligated to it.
One item that I will mention that I failed to mention a second ago, part of the grant for the access road, and I mentioned this last month, but I want to reiterate it again. Limestone County is, they have to own the right of way for the, I'm gonna round up $800,000 industrial access road that they're building, which is a project they're doing. In order to get the funds from ALDOT, they have to own the right of way. I actually asked them, would they entertain a permanent easement? And what was actually told to me was that there was another entity in the room trying to get the same grant, and they had an easement and they were denied. So they have to maintain the right of way. So what we will do is, through this process, we will purchase it, we will register it or record it in our name, and then we'll work with the lawyer there, Limestone County Commission, to draft the document that will then donate the land to them. So it's a pass through for us, essentially. That's not going to cost us really any money at all. Outside of that, they will maintain the asphalt for that access road. I've spoken to them about us maintaining the actual grounds on the 1.7. What I would like to do is, after these projects are done, the dust is settled, we will go after some sort of basically beautification grant so that we can make the entrance to our terminal as well as our main development, our large development on the southeast, so that we look the part, right? We want to maintain the grass. There'll be an agreement that they draft up that states that they don't have to come in once every 6 months and bush hog, or I don't know how long the bush hog, but it's not very frequent. We want to maintain that, make it look nice. And I told them that's something that we can definitely do, as we do that everywhere else as well. So sorry, I missed that information, but if there's no other questions, I'm seeking permission tonight to execute all documents associated with the land purchase and then with the donation as well.
I'll make a motion.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, Adam, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding GMC projects.
Okay, I'll just go through that. I just went over one briefly. I'll start on the northwest and go down to the southeast. Northwest, we have been pouring, believe it or not, we've had some somewhat good weather here recently to pour. The latest pour was yesterday. They poured 2 more large slabs. They're getting ready to pour. They've been pouring the radius essentially on the taxiway. They're now in the middle, and I hope that they'll get 1 more pour this week and get us where we can open back up the taxiway. So hopefully at the beginning of next week, we will be able to lift the NOTAM and start normal operations. That project is moving along. They've had a few bumps here and there, but nothing major. Outside of that, the sewer project on the southeast, as I mentioned earlier, we are kind of down to the last little bit of wire. The 1.7 acres is what's needed for us to take that project to bid. So once we have this agreement signed, GMC will then move forward with the bidding process. What we'll do is we'll bid this for 3 weeks to a month, right? We'll bid the project so that we get good bids. And then after that, a month to sign the contract, and then we're starting the sewer project. The project's going to come all the way up to a manhole in front of Highway 31 Calhoun area. So it's a pretty big endeavor, and it's a needed infrastructure because we don't really have sewer on some of our main buildings. Prime example, this building here is on septic. So getting that over to that development is a really great thing. The other update I'll give you, I've got 2, and everyone in the room can see this after the meeting. I've got 2 renderings here. I wanted you all to see the latest sketch of the acquisition integration hangar. You'll see on there their apron. You'll see our taxiway project, which I'll touch here in just a second. And then you will see the access road as well. They got C-130 that is shown on there, as well as Apache helicopters. It looks amazing to me. And honestly, it is an engineer's world down there because we have multiple different projects carried out by different entities, and they're all meshing up to exact elevations at the exact same time in the end. And so it's a pretty unique process there. With that being said, the taxiway, they're still fighting for us in DC, going through the ups and downs of laws. And in one of those urban transportation bills is our taxiway project that Representative Dale Strong is carrying the bucket for us on. We're very thankful to have his support and all of his folks to run that project through the channels of DC. So that's still going through the process. We are still chipping away at the design slowly, so we want to be ready for when those funds hit to go and take that project out to bid.
Not to get in the weeds, but I didn't see a run-up area, run-up dockies, or are they not gonna do the engine work?
So there is everything to do. I'm not sure as far as their operation, but everything to do with their apron. I'm not sure if there is a spot there that's where the aircraft, it's essentially aircraft tie downs.
Sure.
But I mean, that could essentially be
facing north.
It could be facing north, or it could be facing facing north.
Yeah, you don't want to face the east.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about the rendering.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure about their operation specifically as far as the MRO goes.
I didn't see any diffusers or anything, so I was just curious.
Yeah, and another thing is this is phase 1 of their 4-phased approach to fully develop here. So it is a great project. I'm not sure the actual CapEx of this project, but I believe it's somewhere between $17 and $20 million for phase 1. I'll stand for any questions on that. Do you have anything to add to that, Tim?
No. Said it very well.
Thanks, sir.
All right, if there are no questions, we will move on to the airport manager report. Adam.
All righty, so going through some of these numbers, our Jet A sales are continuing to beat the previous year's numbers. The month of December was the same. We sold 21,362 gallons. Comparing that to the previous year for the month of December, we're looking at 19,002 gallons. The month prior, we sold 22,784 gallons. which brings us to an annual total of $65,000. Again, annual total, that's October through December. 100 low lead, we sold 3,460 gallons, comparing that to December 2022 of 4,387 gallons. Month prior was 4,421 gallons for an annual total of 13,073 gallons. FBO operations by the numbers. So one of the things that we've been including is our gross profit margin on fuel. Last month, we're just under 32%. This month, we're just over 32%. We're at 32.3%. Just kind of going through some of these numbers of how I got this. Our total revenue is $117,499 for the month of December. Our total cost of goods sold for that same period is $79,508.91, which gets us that gross profit margin of 32.3%. Some other things that I mentioned before, that really doesn't capture the full operations because there's multiple aircraft like our cargo, our business, they just come into basically what I call a turn and burn or drop and go. And they pay facility fees. During the month of December, we charge FBO or airport service fees of $13,595. Again, a baseline for that is in FY21. For the entire year, we only charge $25,000. To date, our FBO fees for October 1 through the end of December has been $45,056. I think that is remarkable. Now, just to clean up, make sure that I'm not misquoted, our tenants are not paying the fees. They do not pay fees. Our tenants do not pay any fees unless they call for an after hours. Now that is included in these fees, and that's the only time that they would be paying any sort of service fee. And that's all I have for the FBO report. I'll see if there are any questions on that.
Do you have a comparison between last year's annual and against this year's as far as the fuel and the two key elements there, the Jet A and the 100 LL?
We're definitely way above. I think we were under 50,000 for the first 3 months of last year.
Not until annual to annual.
Annual to annual.
Year in, year in.
Yeah, I don't know those exact numbers for this time period, but I do know that every month we have beaten the previous year.
Right.
So I know that we're significantly higher. We're on track right now to sell close to 300,000 gallons of Jet A. As far as avgas, we're actually below avgas sales. We've had bad weather. We haven't had cheap gas, which come from the pandemic. We had dirt cheap avgas. Well, now we run the same profit margins. It's just really the big fill-ups that we have from an avgas standpoint. It's our business piston engine. I mean, those folks that fly in, we do have some tenants that fly regularly, but we are seeing a downturn in our tenant operations. But I still think we're on track to sell more than 50,000 gallons of avgas. I do remember looking at that. And last year, I believe we were at, closer to 60,000. No, I'm so sorry. We were at 72,000 last year. So we'll be significantly lower on that. But our Jet A sales will make up the difference. As far as our revenue, when Joseph and I were talking about basically, are we on path from last year? We're beating everything from last year on revenue already. And so, we're cyclical, but we're still operating above par. Great. Any other questions? Going through our Tower report, just kind of talk through some of our operations, some of our aircraft that we've had at the airport for the month of December. Our total movements was 2,236. Some of those aircraft, just kind of go through this. We've seen some of our larger aircraft. We've had 4 operations from MD-83, which is an Alaskan-based company that we see Everett's that flies in for cargo. We've had multiple operations from PC-24. We've had 12 operations from Learjet 75. We've had 11 operations from Falcon 20s, which we have on our ramp currently. And we had 22 operations from various Citation models. I'll stand for any questions on those operations. If not, moving on to public involvement. As you can see, last meeting, we had the floors down in the terminal building. We've now finished our painting throughout the building, so when we go to leave, definitely pay attention to that. What I've said is, our front desk is one of the first things that people see, minus what's behind our front desk. And so now we have a very beautiful accent wall that was put up as well with a brushed aluminum sign. Signs.com is a great thing, great tool. We got a sign for that, and we painted the front desk. The front desk was, I'll say it is screaming 1990 piece of equipment there. And so we've given it a facelift. We're not done there yet, but we are going to put another coat or two on there and replace the very bottom skirt. There's a piece of carpet there that is basically the trim. And so we'll make that match the trim that's in the hallway. And then we have signs come in to label each door, and then we'll be complete on the terminal improvements there. The other thing that I wanted to mention as far as public involvement, it is actually not a previous thing, but something that's coming this month. January 18th, we're going to do a grand opening / ribbon cutting for the Civil Air Patrol. Athens used to have a Civil Air Patrol squadron that was operating in the area, and I don't know how long ago they were here, but they are reopening that squadron and working with our community leaders to get young people interested in Civil Air Patrol again. And so we're going to do a ribbon cutting jointly with the chambers on January 18th at 6 o'clock. It'll be the 6th to 8th. It'll be a grand opening. I will, if I haven't already, I'll resend the flyer to you all so that you have that. And I'll leave their flyer and my flyer up at the front desk for our tenants. Very proud to have them here. They do a great service. They're obviously an extension of the Air Force, and they have a very great cadet program to get young people interested in aviation. I know our chamber folks are very excited about it because they're just excited about all things aviation. And having them here will be a good thing. They've asked to use our meeting space, basically once a week, which is no big deal, to be able to use those things as other service providers and customers do. So that's all I have.
Corey, just to answer your kind of question, wasn't really a question, but it was about 1982 when they left, or 1981. So it's been over 40 years.
They're using the same identifier, which is like AL08 something, 8883 or 8 whatever. I can't remember that number, but they're going to call it the Pryor Field Squadron, and so it's definitely going to be a good thing for seeing the young faces in and out of the terminal.
Do they have a plane?
They've got several planes across the state.
Do they have a plane based here?
Not as of right now. They are on our list, and they have got one at the Arsenal.
Mm-hmm. I think it takes a certain minimum number of students, or it's based on a numeric.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they operate, but I'm just glad they're operating. I think it's a good thing, especially when we've got pilot jobs and A&P jobs coming to the airport, because this is help with that foundational approach with the other things that we're doing, which is essentially getting the high schools starting to teach the AOPA STEM curriculum. And so we kind of marry all this together. One of our employees, he got almost 100 hours from Civil Air Patrol out of the Hartselle. There's a unit down in the Hartselle area, Hartselle and Coleman, and he's been participating in that. And I think it's a great thing. That's a lot of money for hours that he didn't have to spend, and he was doing a service at the same time. So that's all I got for public involvement. I've got one other update. I wanted to update you all on the ARCO hangar transition. They have vacated the hangar. We do have some leftovers in the hangar that we'll be cleaning up in the next month or so. I've started, now that we've taken ownership, getting some of the things worked out as far as what needs to be done to put what I say is the Calhoun facelift on the building and fixing some of the things that are outdated in there. I will say that some of the things I was surprised about, the heaters that are in there actually work just fine. Now they also need to be updated. The hangar needs to be painted. And so there's some things there that need to be done, and we'll be chipping away at that. But we did make some of the purchase. I think the last couple board meetings, we were talking about that. And I had a line item in our budget for FBO equipment. And there's a few things in there that we bought. I think we bought $4,500 worth of equipment to include large air compressors, some settling torches and some other things, snap-on toolboxes and just a few things. And so we're very happy to help them out as their transition, so they don't have to move some of that equipment, but we'll get to work on cleaning space out there and making it livable for the new tenants in the future. That's all I have as far as my report. I'll stand for any questions.
Do we have any bids on any of the repairs that's got to be done?
I've got a few numbers, but nothing that I've got multiple of yet. I've just got some folks that we've worked with that's looked at some things and given me some price estimates.
Okay.
But, I think you can spend as much money as you want in there. It just depends on what is feasible. And so we've got a budget for that. We've had several tens of thousands of dollars for hangar maintenance. I think that we'll take care of this and a few other things preventative maintenance wise. One of the things that we're doing now that we've had issues with is we put up bait boxes to kill the rodents. We've sprayed hangers to kill some of the insects and stuff like that. So that's some of the things that we're doing for our tenants currently. There's other needs at the airport. Like I've said, there's a lot of things that we're having to push forward while circling back to maintain. And so, we're keeping an eye on that and being cognizant of our budget at the same time.
Any other questions for Adam? All right, we are down to public comments. Do we have any public comments?
I actually have a question. My name's Eileen Hanby. This is the first board meeting I've attended. I was curious to know where the airport stands on future T hangars or similar type hangars to bring more business to the airport. Is that in your 5-year plan, your 20-year plan, and just what is the current status of that?
It's a great question. I'd love to answer it if and y'all can chime in after. But we have been talking about in last year's ACIP and this year of doing a corporate style hangar up here by the FBO. We do have, obviously, in the back of our minds, constantly wanting to build GA hangars. We have 57 hangars on the airport. 2 of them are privately owned through long-term ground leases. The rest of them are all ours. Only 1 of them are a corporate hangar, essentially. The rest are all tailored to GA. When I updated the basedaircraft.com as far as where we keep our records as far as FAA goes of aircraft that is viewed only by the FAA, let me clarify, that we were looking at a little over 100, let's just say 145 aircraft here. There were less than 10 that were what I will call corporate. The GA, John, I'm gonna steal your thunder here. He said that, GA keeps the lights on. And I think that's the foundation. Now, when I say GA, everybody that's in the industry that's outside of a general aviation airport, you go to Huntsville, GA is business. It's a Challenger 300, that's GA to them. Okay, anything that's not commercial service is GA. When we talk about GA, we split it up. We have business aircraft, so that Challenger, that Citation, and then we have our twin pistons, our twin, our single turboprop, smaller twin turboprops. Some of those are lumped into GA in some certain cases. But we've got majority GA aircraft here. We do have it in our plan to acquire some more property. I don't know if you all were able to attend our master plan, but we allocated hangars on the south side because we need to build the airport strategically going forward. Because if you don't build it strategically, then you have to spend a lot of money to go around or repair your issue. So we need to be very strategic. But we have allocated several hangars on the southeast side, and we allocated a certain property so that we stop building north and south. That was easy back in the day, but it takes up a lot of grounds. And so now we're almost landlocked with only 1 or 2 locations on the southeast as it sits today for hangars. But we have allocated every spot on the south ramp, specifically this, I'm talking about the southwest behind Calhoun. And our target is we need to, and we tried in the past, acquire some property from our partners, Calhoun Community College. And then we'll start building hangars east and west. Now then you can start putting what I'll say is neighborhoods, 40 by 40s, 50 by 50s, or maybe even 60 by 60s in there, so that we can start chipping away at the long wait list that we have, which is, I think the latest number is about 117. So we've got a lot of folks wanting to come here, we just don't have the facilities. But what this board has done that is fantastic is we have approved and streamlined and removed the red tape for long-term ground leases. So if you and some partners wanted to come in and build T hangars yourself, that is something that we can work on. My card's up at the desk so that you can build it and you can essentially, play landlord there if you want. We just need to know who's subleasing from you. And then you can build it on a, depending on the size, 15 years with an option or 25 years with an option. Then we can bring that back to the board for approval. And once your engineering work is approved by our partners, GMC, then you can start, you can start your construction. So we've streamlined it, and if we work it out really fast, you can have a hangar in 18 months.
Okay. So is the airport looking at building any of their own? I'm not familiar with your master plan. So is it in your master?
We don't have the money to, you mind, Brian? We don't have the money to build T hangars or small box hangars like we have right now. So where Adam's going with that is we're trying to ground lease some of these corporate hangars that are north. You see all the development up here, that's $1.5 million loan taken out to get that started so we can get bigger airplanes that are paying a ground lease that would enable us to have a little bit more money to build those hangars. It's just going to be a while before we have the kind of money to do that. And we have an obligation on the southeast, and I don't think that's taking out a turn. We have to build a taxiway down there or AI that's going to build this multi-million-dollar facility that's going to deploy 350 mechanics at the Decatur Airport. It's going to be great for the community. So we're going to get a lot of money from the ground lease there. And that might free up some money to build hangars. But we have to do it that way because we can't make enough. There's no way. I had a small airplane. I have a Cub. I could run my Cub 12 hours a day, every day of the year. It wouldn't change the light bill at the airport and what money the airport makes from the fuel sale of that Cub. But that noise that you hear out there right now with the jet in the facilities that pay the ground leases to support that kind of jet can keep the lights on and give us a little bit more money to do it. It's not going to be this year. I wouldn't think it would be next year. But, and I was the one that said, general aviation keeps the lights on, keeps our employees busy fueling the RDs, fueling the Cubs and stuff like that. And that allows them to be in the office when the jets do pull in, and that's when we make our money. We don't make much money off of general aviation, a small general aviation. It's just not that much profit for a gallon of gas when we're burning 8 gallons an hour.
Yeah, I understand that. Is it at least in your master plan if the opportunity for FAA grants is available?
Yeah, it won't be with FAA grants. They don't fund profit-making infrastructure at the airport outside of, basically no vertical construction. You won't be able to get fuel farms unless in a rare case or hangars or anything like that. They do fund terminal buildings in certain cases, but that usually comes from a state program. Alabama is one of the lowest states in the country. I would say the lowest, but I know for a fact they're the lowest in the southeast. Tennessee, just north of us, they've allocated $105 million for their system, which we're very closely related to South Carolina, where they allocate $35 million. We have $8 million. This is a record year for us, $8 million. Historically, in the past, you go back 10 years, we have close to, I believe it's between $3 to $5 million. So what we're trying to do is, as an association of airports, ACA, we're trying to lobby the states for the entire airport system. This is not just airports like Pryor, this is Birmingham, Huntsville, Mobile, some of the hard hitters in the state as well. We need to get more funding, but there is a program that we get a max allowance of $500,000 to go and build hangars. The issue is we've got to be Johnny on the spot, essentially, use that terminology, but we've got to be ready to go on that project the moment we get the allocation. Because what they do is they've got a list of everyone that might have asked, and they just go down the list until someone's ready to accept the $500,000. The max on something like that, for like in our case, 100 by 100, you're looking at, $2.5 to $2.5 million hangar, where we've got to come up with, in some cases, on the extreme side, $2 million. And so the return on that from a GA side, the return on investments, 25 to 30, maybe even more than that at our current rate, which is 250 per box hangar, and the larger one's just 350 on the south end. That's not enough as far as hangar rent to have that turnover. Most businesses, they like to see, and y'all can quote me on this or pitch in, but 10 years is what I've been trying to do from a rent standpoint to make that return on the investment. But yes, it is in the plan, it is in our master plan, we've allocated places for it. It's just waiting on these new revenue streams to build our bank up, and then we'll go after grants to hopefully build those infrastructures. But what we have done at the airport is we've constantly circle back to do the things that we can, like building bathrooms on the south side and other things like that, for our GA public, our GA tenants.
And those bathrooms are greatly appreciated. I can tell you that firsthand. The reason why I asked though is I do know AOPA has a huge legislative effort underway. They've had it for a few years to get the FAA to do more grants for airports to build hangars. And if that ever comes to fruition, it's going to go to airports that have got it in their 5-year and their master plan, and have put some effort to being shovel ready. The reason why I bring this up is because I used to have 2 aircraft, one over at Indy here and one over here, and just for convenience, I moved my 172 over there where I have my 182. But I do know from being on the list and knowing lots of people that are on the list, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get a hangar anytime soon. So I just thought I'd come to a board meeting and see.
I think it's a great question.
We have great big plans. We there's kind of pie in the sky right now because we got to get some revenue. This is the last, I call it the last pretty girl without a date to the prom in North Alabama. It's the last airport that's just general aviation. We've got nothing to support the airport, except now we've got a taxiway, and we're going to open up a big ramp, and we're going to have some ground leases for big hangars like the one north of the FBO. We're going to have multiple hangars like that, and hopefully those revenue streams will allow us to take the money that we get from that to get the property. Property in North Alabama is crazy expensive. I don't know if you've tried to buy an acre lately, but their property in Huntsville that's running $250,000 an acre, $500,000 an acre. And you start trying to buy that and put a T hangar and put somebody's RD in it at $500 a month, you'll never pay for a hangar.
Right.
Ever, I mean, it doesn't make, you'll never pay for it on paper. That doesn't mean we don't want to do it. We're trying.
Well, appreciate the information.
This is the quickest way to get there, though, is what Adam's doing. I think.
I appreciate that. And I'll say in our ACIP, our 5-year plan, we've got $18.9 million worth of needs on paper. Now, every project we may not get funded, but we do have that, and all those things are very small term investment, less than 5 years. And essentially those things will open us up so we have more revenue to maybe go after. And the 6th year of that plan, we may say, hey, we don't have any bank loans or anything like that, but we've got this amount of revenue, and maybe at the end we can do it. But yes, GA is a priority of mine personally. I'm a GA owner and operator as well, so yes, it's important, and we want to do that and committed to doing that. I believe I'm speaking for the plan that I proposed to them that they accept. But I think that's a great question, and I will say, I do work specifically with AOPA lobbyists very closely, as well as multiple others. And I've said it 2 or 3 times now. What's really important going forward, I believe the FAA will adopt. We've had $150,000 for entitlement for airports in the NIPIAS, the National Plan of Integrated Airport System, which we qualify for. You have to have 10 based aircraft, and you have to meet a few other things. But obviously, we've got all those things. During COVID, when the administration gave grants so airports wouldn't close down for lack of operations, they gave grants for multiple different things. It was all based on our asset classification. Our asset classification for the state of Alabama is a national airport. Our asset classification for a regional airport, or for the FAA, is a regional airport. A national airport with the FAA got a substantial amount of money compared to us as a regional airport. So I think in the future, as we continue to pound the sand, trying to get some dirt moved there, I believe that us being in the position of a national airport is essential. The thing that we're lacking is we have to have 11 base jets. Technically, we have 2 right now. So yeah, and to be a regional airport, you have to have at least 1 base jet. So if we can get those base jets here, we could qualify for more funding down the pathway. Because like I said, I think that they're going to go and start giving more than the 150. Hartselle gets the same amount as we do. I'm not trying to make fun. I live in Hartselle. I love that airport, fly there a lot. A little tricky on trees. But they get the same amount of entitlement as us. It's night and day difference. So anyways, with that being said, I would say that in the future, hopefully.
That answer.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay. We are going to move on to F. Like I said, we're wondering things around a little bit. And before we make any motions on that, I just want to confirm with Mr. Adams that our discussion meets the parameters of executive session.
It does.
Okay. Do we have any motions to break to executive session?
Make a motion to break to executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah, you got to do a roll call
correct.
Roll
vote.
call.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We will have our next scheduled meeting on February 13th. If you guys would like to come back in for the adjournment, you are welcome to. But otherwise, it should be it.